Well, it's what makes football very beautiful. The sometimes uncertainties in what can come up in games. But let's start off with the La Liga first of all. The big huge game in there. The Santiago Bernabeu. Um, Real Madrid up against Barcelona. I expected a bit more fight. I thought Xavi was up to something. Even though, to be very fair, in recent weeks when you watch Barcelona play, they've been getting the results, but they've not really, been outstanding in their play. So I feel like in some ways it wasn't surprising how Real Madrid, tore them apart. 3-1 the scoreline, and Benzema, he has to be the big man. He has to be the big guy in the game. Quick one, guys, and I will start with you, Eddie. Real Madrid, Barcelona. Where does Barcelona go from here? This is a marker, as far as I'm concerned, from Real Madrid, and it looks like the La Liga is there to lose.
Um, yes, I think, Barcelona is going through some very, very difficult periods right now. Um, if you look at that game, especially that first goal that they considered, they considered that goal in transition. And you could see the back line, that they were more interested on trying to, create offside. There was no pressure on the ball whatsoever. There was someone who was, trying to hold up Benzema, before he laid the pass off. But I just feel like tactically, Barcelona were not, prepared for that game. I mean, you look at the lineups and you think, okay, they're trying to match what Real Madrid was doing. But when you play, the same sort of system, there has to be, tactically what you're doing on the ball and off the ball. And we traditionally look at Barcelona as that team that, I mean, we used to talk about the pressing of Barcelona back then, that, they played you basically in your own half, that you never really came into their half. That was
Mm.
what we were used to. But there was no pressure on the ball. There was no running. It seemed like, they were actually very frightened to be in that game. So I don't know whether it's a question whereby they don't have the right kind of players right now for what Xavi is trying to do in the
Mm.
team. But it may also be that maybe it's time to shift some of the players out. I mean, Busquets played in that game, and he played in the midfield. And it's coming of age right now. You probably think that our midfield probably needs a bit of rejuvenation, needs some fresh, energy in that middle of the park. Nothing to be said about Busquets. I think everyone can agree that he's probably one of the most phenomenal players, that has ever played in Barcelona in terms of what he contributes, to the team. But I think that, time is catching up on them. And yeah, so I think a refresh is needed, for Barcelona. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen this season. I think they are
Mm.
potentially going to limp their way to the end of the season.
Okay, Festus. Okay, so we talk about Busquets in that team and how maybe time is catching up with him. Maybe he doesn't have the legs to deliver like he used to do for the team. But then you look at that defense, and there is the glaring lack of leadership in there. You ask yourself about the young players who are in there, but then you have a Jordi Alba on the bench. You've got a Gerard Piqué on the bench. Is it that they are too old, to get in that side and bring the kind of leadership that Barcelona wants at the back? Or there's more to this, not playing them than meets the eye.
Um, Clearly, I think what Xavi is trying to do. Xavi is just trying to rebuild an entire team, and he's trying to add also. He's trying to make the team more mobile. So you could see like what Eddie said in terms of Busquets. For me, I also believe that replacements should be in order now at this point in time, and those guys should be coming in. They should be bad players. They shouldn't be the mainstay of that team. So but for defense, it is a whole new game. In the midfield attack, you need mobility, you need guys that could run and that are mobile, that are at every point in time very active. But for defenders, you also need experience, and you need, like you said, leadership. You need one of the experienced guy in that defense, marshalling those guys, talking to them at every point in time, controlling them, and giving them direction on what to do, how to either create upside, play high line, when to fall back and stuff like that. So you can't buy that. You always need an experienced person. But aside the tactics and others now, I want to give you also a bit of takeaway. Barcelona didn't really do all that bad from that match. A lot of people just saw the score line and they just wish. Now, if you look at the stats that came from that match, apart from what we see, Barcelona actually dominated possession. Yeah, you could say most of those possessions were in their own half, but they actually held on to those balls a whole lot of time. In fact, they had about 57% of the possession. And if you look at even the shots on goal and shots off goal, they had 18 shots in total, while Real Madrid had 8 shots in total. And even when you're talking about shots on target, Barcelona had 5, Real Madrid had 4. So there are some indices you also look, and scoreline at times takes away every other thing. It's not like they did bad. The points they had there was they were not. I don't know. I would say determination, or it wasn't just clicking for them on that day. And I think they need a whole lot of firepower also to get what they want to do. Let come to fruition.
Interesting. Interesting you brought out the statistic. They actually had 57% of the possession. But beyond possession, what's the essence of having a lot of possession and there's no penetration? You talk about how many shots they had.
But the shots is penetration,
they had only one shot on target more than Real Madrid. They
Mm-hmm.
had only one shot on target more than Real Madrid. So all your possession doesn't count for anything if you're not creating the chances and getting the balls on target. And look at Real Madrid, 4 shots on target, 3 of them resulted in goals. So Barcelona on the other hand, they were huffing and puffing. Yes, they will keep the ball, they will keep possession, but what do you do with the possession when you have it? And those days you look at the Barcelona side under Pep and the rest of them, they are tearing you apart and they are making your goalkeeper work all night long.